And I'll let some folks get into the stream before I really start going. But for those of you jumping on right away, we are here in Hendersonville, Tennessee, as the Hoptown Hoppers take on the Full Count Rhythm for the, I believe, 5th time this season, maybe 4th. And up to bat first is Stephen Bell, the center fielder, and I'll run through the starting lineups here in a moment. That pitch is outside for a ball. The next pitch to Bell is low and inside for a ball. So Bell starts out with a 2-0 count. I'm currently getting all the names written down. Timing was a little off today as far as that's fouled off for a 2-1 count now to Stephen Bell. Timing was a little off. The Hoppers didn't get off the bus until about an hour before game time because of the rain. That cleared up. And now we're playing 7:05 instead of 6:30. And Stephen Bell there with a swing and a miss for the second strike on the board. And Bell will foul that one off towards the dugout of the Rhythm.
Please return all AAA auto glass foul balls to the merch pavilion for a souvenir.
Stephen Bell here, 2-2 count. Swings and misses there for the strikeout and the first out of the game, as well as the first out for the Hoppers. And we'll bring up Sam Perkins, and I'll quickly run through the lineup for the Hoptown Hoppers. You just saw Stephen Bell, who's playing center field, and Sam Perkins now the right fielder, then Luis Vergara in left field. Dom Oliverio's the designated hitter tonight for Hoptown. And Tate Van Hooser at first base tonight as Perkins fouls that one off for a 0-1 count right out of the gate to him. And then after Van Hooser is Carter Hood at third base, Reed Douglas behind the plate, John Keebler at shortstop, and then Artem Logvinov at second base tonight. As Sam Perkins fouls that one off as well, and I don't know if it'll be able to be tracked down. It won't be. Sounds like someone ran into the fence. I don't have the greatest view on that right foul territory. Tonight's pitcher for the Hoppers is Dylan Eaton, number 18. And here's Sam Perkins facing an 0-2 count. And that's a strikeout looking on the low pitch. And Perkins will sit down for the second strikeout and second out of the first inning. And we'll bring up Luis Vergara, the left fielder. The first pitch is high and outside for a ball. 1-0 the count to Vergara. And Vergara will foul the second pitch off to even things up at 1 apiece. 1-1 count with 2 outs on the board and no runners on base for Vergara. And he'll watch that one go by for a strike on the off-speed pitch. The pitcher for Full Count tonight, I got to find his first name, but it's number 27, Bray, is his last name. I wasn't given a first name, last name lineup today. And that pitch in the dirt, but they're going to say Vergara went on the check swing, And so that's 3 straight strikeouts there to get the rhythm through the top of the first inning and send us into the bottom of the same inning. I'll make sure to get these names down and be right back in the bottom of the first, excuse me, with more Hoptown Hoppers baseball on Hoptown Hoppers TV. And we are back here, bottom of the first inning. And you may have heard that on the PA. I was going to go ahead and let him say it. Drew Robertson is leading things off for the rhythm here in the bottom of the first. And he'll watch a strike go by right out of the gate from Dylan Eaton, who's starting on the mound today for Hoptown. And he goes for the bunt, but it doesn't matter as it's in the zone for another strike. So an 0-2 count now to Robertson right out of the gate. And that pitch is fouled off past the bullpen of the rhythm to keep the count the same. And that pitch is hit directly in between Logvinov and Van Hooser at first, and that'll be a single to get things started for the rhythm. And looking at our other angle here, it's not the greatest in the world. You kind of see those outfielders, but not super clear. I'll try to switch it over here when I think I need to, but this first angle is probably going to be our go-to today, as this is Trey Miller, who will bunt right out of the gate to Carter Hood, who will go to make the play at first. And actually, no, they're going to get, no, he's going to come home. That runner, that was Drew Robertson, had stolen second, or was going to second, and when they were going to make the throw to first, chose not to. Carter Hood turned around to get the runner at third base, and instead he overthrew the ball over the top of Keebler, and that runner came all the way home. So that first error from Hoptown is detrimental, and it leaves Trey Miller on second base after the bunt, and the rhythm up 1-0 already in this one. One 0 count to Jackson Cawthron, the catcher. And that pitch is called a ball. And that's grounded to the first baseman, Van Hooser, who will step on first and pick up an out. But the runner does advance to third base. So a runner on third and out on the board. And Henry Jackson, the first baseman, is now up to bat. First pitch to Jackson is a strike. 0-1 count with 1 out on the board and a runner at third base. That pitch is fouled up and behind home plate, so an 0-2 count now to the first baseman. And that one also fouled off, similar spot. The count remains the same at 0-2. Oh, 2 count here, and the pitch from Eaton is hit up but fouled off once again from Jackson. So still an 0-2 count here, but 4 straight fouls from the first baseman. And I lit that one at the shortstop, Keebler, who bobbles it but still gets the throw off and picks up the out, but not before the runner at third advances into home. So the Rhythm now picking up their second run of the inning.
Batting fifth, the left fielder, Reese Holbrook.
This is Reese Holbrook at the plate. Holbrook sees a ball go past him there. He's playing left field for the Rhythm. He'll swing and miss on that one to even the count up at 1 apiece. That pitch is inside for the strike. 1-2 count to Holbrook with 2 outs on the board and no runners on. That pitch high for a ball to even things up at 2 apiece, and the twos are wild at 2 balls, 2 strikes, 2 outs with no runners on. And the ball there fouled down the first base line. Goes foul. That is swung on and missed by Holbrook and is a strikeout for Dylan Eaton. And that is the 3rd out of the bottom of the first, ending the inning. We will be right back in the top of the 2nd as the Hoppers get a chance to respond to that 2-run inning from the Rhythm. The current score is Hopper 0, Rhythm 2. We will be right back with more Hoptown Hoppers baseball on Hoptown Hoppers TV. We're back here in the top of the 2nd inning as Dom Oliverio, the designated hitter, is now up to bat for the Hoptown Hoppers. We'll see that one go by for a strike from Elliott Bray. I did get that first name. Elliott Bray pitching from Auburn University. And a high pitch there is swung on and missed from Oliverio for the quick 0-2 count here in the top of the second. And that pitch is outside for a ball. 1-2 the count now for Oliverio. I'll remind you that Bray struck out the first 3 batters for the Hoppers in the first inning. And Oliverio will foul that one off into the netting behind home plate to keep the count the same at 1-2. And that pitch is hit directly. Oh, the left fielder was actually cheating. I was about to say that was hit to the wall. And no, that left fielder was cheating way over. And so he was actually there to get the ball, or catch the ball, should I say, and make the play. And he is not able to do so, or he is able to do so. Dom Oliverio not able to get the hit there. A good contact and doesn't strike out. So Oliverio's down, and this is Tate Van Hooser up for a strike right out of the gate. And that is way outside, and Tate will swing on it. So Van Hooser here having to compose himself with an 0-2 count and 1 out on the board. That pitch is low and outside for a ball, so a 1-2 count now as Van Hooser will look at that one. So a 1-2 count now for Van Hooser, and he'll watch that one go high to even things up at 2 apiece. So now 2 balls, 2 strikes for Tate Van Hooser with an out on the board and no runners on base. And there he swings it to the third baseman, who with so much speed off the bat from Van Hooser gets past him, goes between the legs of Trey Miller. And Van Hooser does a great job there of going from an 0-2 count to a single, and he's the first runner on base today for Hoptown. And this is Carter Hood, the third baseman for Hoptown, now at the plate, seeing his first action of the day, and he'll immediately foul that one off for a 0-1 count. So here's Hood, 0-1 count, and Tate Van Hooser at first base. And he'll swing on that one, is right down the middle and just a little early. So an 0-2 count now for Hood. Similar situation as what we just saw with Van Hooser. He was able to get a single out of it, and Hood here going to have to fight to stay alive. And he watches that one. It's low and outside, and Van Hooser will book it to second base, and he makes it there without question. So a runner now in scoring position, and the count is now 1-2 for Carter Hood. So Dom Oliverio flew out to left field, but great contact on that one, and then Van Hooser gets a hit. After a tough first inning, the Hoppers seeming to get the bat on the ball a little bit here. And Carter Hood is seeing that pitch and fouls it off behind the netting to keep the count the same at 1-2. So 1-2 here, Carter Hood, and Tate Van Hooser has advanced to second base, 1 out on the board. And that's outside, a good look there for Hood. And a way to watch that one as it was coming in and an off speed, looked like it might drop in, actually bolts to the right and goes outside. So a 2-2 count now for Carter Hood. And he'll swing on that one, but it's fouled into the dirt, and the at-bat will continue, and the count will remain the same. That pitch is going to be swung on from Hood on the high inside pitch. And he immediately realized it was up and pulled a check swing, but in an effort to kind of avoid the pitch, fell through with his body and finished the swing off. So a strikeout there to Carter Hood, and that will bring up Reed Douglas, the catcher for the Hoppers. So 4 strikeouts now for Bray. And a runner at second base, that's Tate Van Hooser. That pitch is straight down the middle for a strike. 0-1 the count now to Douglas. Oh, 1 count. 2 outs on the board and a runner at second. That pitch high and inside for a ball. 1-1 evened up now, the count for Douglas, who won't be as eager to swing as the last few batters who are going out there to slug. Douglas does have a great on-base percentage and would like to walk as well, so he'll watch that one in the dirt to do just that and get ahead in the count, 2-1. And if I'm correct, that's the first time a Hoppers batter has been ahead in the count today. The pitch is fouled directly behind home plate into the netting to even things up at 2 apiece, and the 2s are wild. 2 balls, 2 strikes, and 2 outs for Hoptown. And, you know, you want to add to that a runner at second base. And Reed Douglas at the plate. And he'll foul that one off on the slower pitch. I don't know if I'd call it necessarily off speed. Didn't come in slow, but wasn't a fastball, and going to get fouled off the top of the bat and keep the count the same at 2-2. That pitch is out. No. They're going to call him for a strikeout there on the outside pitch. And Reed Douglas will sit down looking after that strikeout, and that'll send us to the bottom of the second inning and strand the runner at second base. As the Hoppers are unable to get any runs there, the score still does remain Hoppers 0, Rhythm 2. And we will return in just a moment for the bottom of the same inning on Hoptown Hoppers TV. And we are back here, bottom of the second inning, and up for the Rhythm is designated hitter Sam Slaughter.
Designated hitter Sam Slaughter.
And so Dylan Eaton coming into this inning, giving up 2 hits, a strikeout, no walks. He'll start things off with a strike inside there to Slaughter. 0-1 count now. And that pitch fouled off into the netting for an 0-2 count right away to Slaughter. I want to say this lineup for the Rhythm tonight is their normal lineup. We've seen that in several games now. They've kind of cemented a group, as that's a ball thrown from Eaton. I recognize all these names. I think the two that have played the least in this group are Jared White and Brett Waringer, but both of those have played against the Hoppers, as that's another ball to even things up at 2 apiece for Slaughter and Eaton. That pitch outside for a ball, so a full count right away after the 0-2 count is seen here by Sam Slaughter. And that pitch is hit directly up, and third baseman Hood will track it down, and he does for the first out here in the bottom of the second inning.
1-0 brings up the shortstop, Levi Farrell.
So that'll bring up Levi Perel, the shortstop for the Rhythm, and sit down Slaughter for the first out here. That first pitch straight down the middle for a strike. Perel has been a very good hitter for this Rhythm team in their appearances against Hoptown this season. I believe earlier, and the last game we played here, I want to say, went 3 for 4. Very solid player. And he'll immediately get hit in the back there from Eaton after the first strike. And so that'll be a base runner for the Rhythm.
Right fielder, Jared White.
And Jared White now, the right fielder, who I just mentioned, I think I've only seen in one game against Hoptown, but I do recognize the name. And that first pitch is outside for a ball. Second pitch low for a ball. So a 2-0 count now to Jared White, the 8-hole hitter for the Rhythm. And a swing and a miss there. 2-1 now, the count. And that ball is fouled off behind home plate and into the netting for a 2-2 count, all evened up. Still 1 out on the board and a runner on base on first base. That's Levi Perel, who was just hit by a pitch. And that pitch inside for a ball. So another full count here in this bottom of the second inning. Second one we've seen already. This one coming not after an 0-2 count, but after a 2-0 count. And Eaton looking for the second out here in the second. He'll actually check up on Perel at first base, and no luck there. The pitch is fouled up over the netting and deep into the field here.
Another AAA.
The count remains the same at 3-2. 1 out on the board, and a runner has yet to move. He's still at first. And that pitch is rifled towards left field, and Luis Vergara will come up with it as it's a little bit too left, actually winded back a little bit left. And here we are. The runner still at first base, and Brett Waringer at the plate. Waringer struck out 3 times, I believe, in the last time we were here. And watch that one go low for a ball right out of the gate. 1-0 count to Waringer, and that second pitch is high for a ball, so another 2-0 count being thrown from Eaton. This is Dylan Eaton's first time starting, I believe, since the Du Bois County game about a week and a half ago, and that pitch is a strike. So a 2-1 count now to Brett Waringer. If I'm Dylan Eaton, I'm looking at the scouting report here, this is a guy who struck out multiple times. That's a strike thrown there to even things up. 2s go wild, 2 balls, 2 strikes, 2 outs. And I'm throwing these in the strike zone, trying to get him to swing. Currently having him sitting with 2 strikes is a good sign to see. And that pitch is swung on high to Waringer for the strikeout. Dylan Eaton's second of the day, and both of the final outs in each inning came via strikeout. And that will send us to the top of the 3rd inning. The Rhythm get a runner on base, but that's it. And no runs are scored in that inning from either team, as the score remains Hoptown Hoppers 0, full count Rhythm 2. We will return in the top of the 3rd inning with more Hoptown Hoppers baseball here on Hoptown Hoppers TV. Here we are, top of the 3rd inning, and John Keebler now up to bat for Hoptown. Keebler is the 8-hole hitter and shortstop today for Hoptown. Keebler will foul the first pitch he sees off for our quick 0-1 count. That ball is high, and a 1-1 count now to Keebler. That pitch is in there for a strike. It looked a little bit outside, called a strike for a 1-2 count now to Keebler. That pitch way in the dirt, but Keebler check swing, so they have to check him. They say he did not cross the plate, so a 2-2 count evened up now for John Keebler. Top of the 3rd inning here. Hopper still looking to get a extra base hit, and that one will go to the shortstop, who will make the throw, and the play is made for the first out here in the 3rd inning. And Keebler will sit after he grounds out, and that'll bring up Artem Logvinov, the 9-hole hitter for Hoptown.
Artem Logvinov.
That ball in the dirt for a quick 1-0 count to Artem. That pitch straight down the pipe for a strike, and 1-1 the count. That pitch low for a ball. 2-1 now the count to Logvinov, who is trying to stay ahead against this solid pitcher in Elliott Bray, who already has 5 strikeouts. He's given up 1 hit. That was to Tate Van Hooser, but no walks, and everyone but Tate and Oliverio, as that ball's hit well towards deep center field, and it's caught from the center fielder, but good contact there from Logvinov, and that's the second deep shot we've seen from the Hoppers so far, as Oliverio and Logvinov both hitting deep shots. Both of them coming up short, though, as the Hoppers make it through their first run of the lineup with no runs scored, and Stephen Bell back up to the plate. He'll wash that one down for a strike, and an 0-1 count to Bell right out of the gate. That pitch is outside for a ball. 1-1 the count. Bell, the lefty batter, and going through the lineup in my head, I believe he's the only lefty in this lineup today. And he'll swing that one, hit it directly to the second baseman, who makes the quick throw to first. And that will do it. 3 up, 3 down in the top of the 3rd inning for Hoptown. And we go to the bottom of the 3rd now, as the Rhythm tried to tack on a few more runs to their already 2-0 lead. We will be back when they're ready to try that. Until then, we'll be back with more Hoptown Hopper baseball on Hoptown Hopper TV. And we're here bottom of the 3rd inning, already back at the top of the lineup as well for the Rhythm. So Drew Robertson, the center fielder and leadoff hitter, will come up to the plate for full count. He has a single in this game already and scored the first run for the Rhythm after an error brought him from 2nd to 3rd to home. And that first pitch from Eaton to him will get inside and past the catcher Douglas for a ball. 1-0 the count now to Robertson. Robertson hit that single directly in between the second baseman and first baseman, as he'll watch that one on another inside pitch for a ball. 2-0 the count. A high pitch there. So a quick 3 balls will leave Robertson threatening to walk here and get a runner on base with no outs for a full count. And that pitch is a strike down the middle. 3-1 the count. And another one down the pipe, as Dylan Eaton trying to leave no questions on those strikes and fills the count up. And that pitch popped up foul. It's going to be missed by Carter Hood, who actually runs into the wall here. Pretty hard contact, runs straight into the wall and netting. But he's up and moving back to third base, so he looks to be all right. He missed the catch, so the count will remain the same, and Carter is back at third. Jogs that one off. Maybe should have left that one for Douglas, who had a better read on the area of it, but Hood runs all the way from third to make the play and just barely misses the ball and actually hits the wall. So a 3-2 count now. And that pitch is high for a ball, so Robertson will walk after seeing 6 pitches. And that'll bring up Trey Miller, who himself also has a single off of a bunt.
Now batting for the Rhythm, third baseman Trey Miller.
So a runner on first now after the walk, Dylan Eaton's first walk of the game. That first pitch is just inside for a ball. 1-0 the count to Miller. Miller actually bunted and kind of led to that play with the error at third. That pitch high for a ball, so a 2-0 count now. Back-to-back batters facing multiple balls at the start of their at-bats in this inning. And a high ball there, so another 3-0 count here to back-to-back batters. Dylan Eaton did a good job of fighting back that last batter and actually got the pop-up. Wasn't able to convert. See what he can do here against Miller, and that ball thrown over to first base to check up on Robertson will be no dice as he's safe at first. And another pitch there. That one a little closer, but still safe as Robertson. That pitch is called a ball, looked good from here. Had to have been a little outside. And so 4 straight balls will walk back-to-back batters and bring up Jackson Cawthron. Cawthron, the catcher, flew out in this game. And 2 runners on second and first base. Both of the batters that have come up to bat in this inning so far have both been walked, and there another ball thrown. That one a high pitch to Cawthron. And another high pitch there in the same spot for a ball. Back-to-back balls here, and Eaton trying to fight off another count where he finds himself behind and does not want to load the bases, especially with no outs on the board. That pitch hit foul down the first base line. 2-1 the count for Cawthron. That pitch is good down the middle of the off speed from Eaton. One of Eaton's best pitches there, called strike to even things up at 2 apiece to Cawthron, as Eaton tries to pick up an out here without loading the bases for full count. And that pitch will be popped up, and Keebler and Hood will track it down. Hood comes up with it and almost trips as he catches it at his waist on the slightly misread hit. And that's the first out here in the bottom of the third. And the runners will stay at the same spots in second and first base. And Henry Jackson, the first baseman, now at the plate. Jackson, I believe, popped up or flew out in the first inning, but has gotten nothing done today so far in his lone at-bat. And he'll swing and miss on the first pitch there from Eaton. So an 0-1 count here as Eaton now ahead for the first time in this inning. Started the first 2 batters off 3-0 and the last one 2-0. And another foul there, that one out of the glove of Douglas for an 0-2 count, as the Hoppers try to leave these runners where they are. So an 0-2 count here to Henry Jackson, and one out on the board, 2 runners on base. That is a low pitch in the dirt for a ball, 1-2 the count now. That pitch is popped up deep at the center field, and the catch will be made. That runner actually was trying to steal from second to third. He will make his way back, and Stephen Bell comes up with it for the out.
Left fielder.
Now Reese Holbrook. Holbrook struck out in his first at-bat in the first inning, which ended that inning. Here he is with 2 runners on, but 2 outs on the board. Similar situation to what he saw earlier this game. He'll immediately hit that one to the second baseman, and it'll get past Logvinov, and the runner will come into home, and the other will advance to third as Logvinov not able to field that one. And it gets the runner to first and third on the, I don't know if I would call that an error or a single, as it looked like Logvinov got a glove on it, but it just got past him.
A designated hitter, Sam.
And so runners in the corners now as Holbrook will pick up. I'll mark it down as a single, but I don't have Game Changer up to tell you the actual call. And it wouldn't be full count without incredibly loud speakers on the opposing side bleachers, and that's just what you gotta love about the rhythm. And that pitch is a inside strike, but the runner will steal to second. So an 0-1 count now with 2 runners in scoring position. This is Sam Slaughter, the designated hitter, who, if I remember correctly, hit it out to left field in his first at-bat. And that's a ball called on the inside. Looked close to that last pitch, called a strike, but this time around the call will change and the count will even up at 1 apiece. That is fouled behind home plate and towards the concession stand. So a 1-2 count now to Slaughter. 2 outs on the board and runners at third and second. But the Rhythm have already picked up 1 run here in the third inning. That pitch is low in the dirt to even things up at 2 apiece, and the 2s are wild for the third time in this game. 2 balls, 2 strikes, and 2 outs with 2 runners on base. That is another low pitch in the dirt for a full count. The third one that Eaton has faced in this inning, or maybe second full count actually, now that I think about it. The second full count that Eaton has faced in this inning. And that pitch is called a ball. Maybe it missed a little high, but I'm not sure.
Shortstop Levi Farrell.
So the batter will walk and load the bases and bring up Levi Perel, who was hit by a pitch in his first at-bat. The first pitch to Perel is high for a ball, 1-0 the count. And that pitch is good for a strike on the inside. A 1-1 count now to Perel. That is an outside, in the dirt pitch for a ball as Reed Douglas does a good job of corralling that one and not letting it get past him. 2-1 count now to Perrell. And that pitch high and inside for a strike. And it is evened up at 2 apiece. And the twos are wild for the 4th time in this ball game. 2 balls, 2 strikes, 2 outs. That's an outside pitch for a ball. So another full count, this time the 3rd one we've seen in this inning. 3 balls, 2 strikes, 2 outs, and the bases are loaded, so a walk here would result in a free run. And another low pitch does just that, as 4 walks in this inning now. 2 runs scored, and Mike Albin will approach the mound to chat with Dylan Eaton, likely about all those walks. I think that one of those walks should have been a strikeout and probably gotten them out of the inning. But instead, the chat will be made at the mound. And I don't know if this is a ball handoff or a pep talk, and it will be a ball handoff, as it looks like, I can't tell who this is, Jack McGuire will approach the mound, the lefty McGuire. And so we will let him warm up as Dylan Eaton will step off the mound. And we will be right back here in the bottom of the 3rd inning. There are 2 outs, but loaded bases, as Jack McGuire will have to get the hoppers out of the inning. And we are back in the bottom of the 3rd inning here, as Jared White is now up to bat. White flew out in his first at-bat. And they did announce Jack McGuire incorrectly here. The full count rhythm PA said this was number 24, Cody Jones. Well, it's actually number 34, Jack McGuire. And McGuire will start out with a strike down the middle to White. McGuire, the lefty, one of the few left-handed pitchers on this team, as that runner is going to steal home, and he does. The slow windup from McGuire actually allows a runner to come all the way from third to home before the pitch is made. So they're going to say that was a ball. I don't get how that's called a ball considering it hit a person. And that pitch is going to be fouled off down the first base line for a strike called 1-2.
Correction now pitching number 34, Jack McGuire.
1-2 count now to White from McGuire. And runners at second and third. And it's popped there. And Logvinov will try to make the play, and he does actually. Yeah, Artie made it. I couldn't see if it was Artem or John Keebler that made that play. It was Artem. And so the stolen home there is the big moment in the bottom of the third for the Rhythm. But we will move to the top of the fourth after the Rhythm score 3 in that inning. Most of those coming via walk. And we will return in just a moment for the top of the fourth as the Hoppers will get a chance to score a couple runs and shorten this lead. And we will be back when that's ready to go with more Hoptown Hoppers baseball on Hoptown Hoppers TV. We are back here, top of the fourth inning. As you folks may be able to hear it, it's the Oak Ridge boys on the speakers right now here in Hendersonville. And Sam Perkins leading things off in the fourth inning for the Hoppers. He'll immediately hit one to left center field, and that play will be made by the center fielder for a first pitch swing from Perkins and the out in center field. And that'll bring up Luis Vergara, who struck out in his first at-bat. The left fielder, who has seen some action defensively already tonight, here for his second at-bat. And there's a ball thrown to Vergara. 1-0 the count. And that is hit to the middle, but the shortstop is able to come up with it, and he makes the play to first base. And that'll be back-to-back quick outs for the Hoppers, but at least not via strikeout, and instead the defense for full count has to work a little bit. And Dom Oliveria will come up now, the designated hitter and four-hole hitter for the Hoppers. He hit one deep to left field earlier in this game, but it was caught up at the wall. And this is his second at-bat. And that's an inside fastball for a ball. 1-0 the count. Ooh, and a fastball there will hit Oliverio in the left shoulder, and that one will hurt. It'll leave a mark as he'll march it off to first base, as I'm sure that one didn't feel good. And that'll leave a runner on first base, but I'm not sure if it was worth it because there's 2 outs on the board, and that was one of the harder hit by pitches I've seen. Luckily not in the worst spot imaginable. But it'll bring up Tate Van Hooser, who is the lone hopper with a hit today. Van Hooser had a single in the first inning? No, second inning. And he'll watch that one go by for a strike. He actually hit that single after swinging twice and going down 0-2 in that count. And a check swing there. They're going to say he went, but it was nowhere close to him going. That bat barely left his shoulder, and the swing was not over the plate, but they're going to say he did go for an 0-2 count. And so Van Hooser now facing 0-2 once again here in the fourth inning. And that pitch is called a strike, and that one was a strike down the middle for a strikeout. And Van Hooser will sit, and so will the Hoppers here in the top of the fourth inning. We'll go to the bottom of the fourth, where the Rhythm will try to advance their lead once again. We'll be right back with more Hoptown Hoppers baseball on Hoptown Hoppers TV. And here we are, fourth inning, bottom of the fourth inning to be exact. And Brett Waringer is back up to the plate. Waringer struck out, and his first at-bat has struck out pretty often against the Hoppers in his few appearances this season. The first pitch he sees is a strike inside. And 1-0, or an 0-1 count, excuse me, to Waringer. And that pitch fouled off into the netting, so Waringer finds himself 0-2 here. And McGuire remains on the mound for Hoptown. McGuire, the lefty who came in at the end of the last inning for Dylan Eaton. Oh, 2 count here to Waringer. And that pitch is outside for a ball. 1-2 the count now to Waringer. If I'm McGuire here, I'd throw a pitch high in the eyes. And he doesn't. He throws one in the dirt. 2-2 now the count is. Waringer struck out on a high pitch in the eyes last at bat and has shown that he likes those pitches to swing on, not exactly to hit. And he'll pop that one foul and behind the netting to keep the count the same. That pitch high, but a little too slow, and so a full count here to a batter they probably would not like to walk, as he's a good one to strike out or get an out against. And that one will fly foul. I actually thought it was going towards the outfield, but it doesn't. It goes foul towards the Hoppers dugout. Three-two count. The count remains full, and the pitch here is swung on once again and fouled once again from Waringer. So multiple fouls here in this at-bat from Brett Waringer. and he will foul that one off, and it doesn't land in the glove of Douglas. It bounces off of him and goes a little bit forward and in the dirt. So another foul there. That one a little bit closer. Will keep the at-bat alive for Warringer. And that is another foul. That one laced down the first base line, excuse me. And so Brett Warringer here fighting to stay alive. Probably the longest at-bat I've seen from him this season. And that's a high and outside slow pitch to walk Warringer. And missed opportunity there for Hoptown, as that'll land Warringer on first base and bring us back up to the top of the lineup for Drew Robertson. Robertson has a single in this game as well as a walk. And he'll immediately foul one off directly behind him on plate for an 0-1 count. And McGuire will step off and take his time here, a pitcher who does move a little slower. Throws that one low and in the dirt. So a 1-1 count now to Robertson. Robertson actually walking in the last inning, was the first runner on base and did score. That pitch is high for a ball, so a 2-1 count now. And that pitch is hit, and it'll land for a single towards left field, as Luis Vergara will corral it and get it back in. But not before the runner advances to second, and Robertson lands on first for his second hit of the day.
Baseman Trey Miller.
And that'll bring up Trey Miller, who with a identical stat line to Robertson, had a single in the first and then walked in his second at-bat. The first pitch he sees is a strike. 0-1 the count. And that is fouled off for a foul here for an 0-2 count now.
Another AAA auto glass foul ball.
Oh, 2 count to Trey Miller, third baseman. And that'll actually hit Miller, go off of his foot, and advance him to first base and load up the bases. On the bounce there, it goes off of his foot. Probably would have gotten loose anyway.
Catcher Jackson Cawthron.
And so Trey Miller hit by a pitch. And that'll bring up Jackson Cawthron, the catcher. Cawthron hasn't gotten anything done today, has been out in both of his at-bats. But with loaded bases here and no outs, he's in a good spot. Fouls that one back. 0-1, now the count to Cawthron. Cawthron, I believe, is one of those players that has played in every game against the Hoppers. Not sure if he's caught in every game, but I'm pretty sure he's played in some way or another. That's a outside pitch, a little high too. 1-1 the count. That pitch down the pipe for a strike. 1-2 the count. And no doubt about that one, as the count 1-2 now. That pitch is hit well from Cawthron, but Stephen Bell comes up with it in the outfield. He'll make the throw in, but the runner will advance from third to home to score the run. And so even though the Hoppers do pick up an out, the sacrifice fly there from Jackson Cawthron does a good job to score the runner. But the other runners stay in their spots, and the runner is no longer at third, so runners at second and first now, and Henry Jackson, the first baseman, at the plate. He'll immediately hit one to the second baseman, Logvinov, who steps on second base and ends the inning there with the double play after the very first pitch is swung on from Jackson. And so that'll move us into the fifth inning. But before we go, I will read off our Hopper season sponsors, as I should have done this last inning, but getting around to it now. Hopper season sponsors are Jones Brothers, White's Auto Mall, Chick-fil-A, Huggard Beard and Giles, Planters Bank, Oak Grove Racing and Gaming, the City of Hopkinsville, Penny Ryle Electric, HWEA, Charlie Henderson State Farm, WHVO Bikes and More, All Clean Services, Higgins Insurance, and Super Lawn and Garden. Those are your Hopper season sponsors. Thank you so much to all of those sponsors who do a lot for this team. And we will see a new pitcher on the mound for the Rhythm in the fifth inning, it looks like. And so we'll let him get some warm-up pitches and be right back in the top of the fifth. Here we are, top of the fifth inning, and Carter Hood will lead things off for the Hoppers. New pitcher for the Rhythm is number 14, Jack Thompson, who replaces Elliott Bray, who had a great starting performance today. Didn't go super long, but in his time did play well. Pitches a ball there right out of the gate, and that'll get the second at-bat started for Hood. That pitch is a strike down the middle. 1-1 the count. That one is hit to the third baseman, who will have a play on first. Throws it to the ground, but the first baseman able to pick it up and catch Hood out at first base for the first out here in the fifth inning.
Catcher Reed Douglas.
And that'll bring up Reed Douglas, who struck out in his first at-bat, I believe, in the second inning. That pitch will hit Douglas in the leg as he will head to first base. First pitch there strikes Douglas, sends him to first.
Now batting for the Hoppers, shortstop John Keebler.
Brings up John Keebler, the shortstop. And that's an inside pitch, nearly striking Keebler after hitting Douglas just a moment ago. So a ball thrown right out of the gates here in Keebler's second at bat. I believe he was thrown out. And another one there. That one's inside. Actually, I think goes behind Keebler. So a 2-0 count now to Keebler. And there's a pitch straight down the middle for a strike. 2-1 the count after two super inside iffy pitches. He finds the zone there on the third one. So a 2-1 count now. There's another inside pitch for the third ball of the count and a 3-1. 1 out on the board, and Reed Douglas sits at first base after getting hit. There's a low pitch for a ball, and that will send Keebler to first with the Hoppers' first walk of the day, I think. I'll go through the lineup here. Yep, first walk of the day. They have been hit twice, but Keebler sees the first 4 balls thrown. And you have runners now at second and first, and Artem Logvinov, who hit one deep to center field and was caught. Sees a low pitch there for a ball. So another one thrown similar to the one that walked Keebler. And there's one, a strike. That's a good pitch. And a 1-1 count now to Logvinov with 1 out on the board and runners on second and first. And that's an inside pitch called a strike. 1-2 now to Logvinov on that pitch. That's a little inside. So Logvinov, you're trying to fight and get some offense going for Hoptown. And he will hit one directly at the pitcher, who will smoke one to the second baseman, who makes the throw to first and not able to catch him out, but does get the out at second base. And Reed Douglas will advance to third. Logvinov sits at first, and runners are in the corners, but the second out is grabbed. So the center fielder, Stephen Bell, will come up and have a chance to bat in Douglas. He struck out once and I believe was thrown out once in this contest. He'll immediately hit that one foul down the third base line. Douglas having to get out of the way of it. And an 0-1 count now here to Stephen Bell. And that's an outside pitch for a ball. 1-1. The count now to Bell is if he were to walk, he would load the bases and bring up Sam Perkins. A hit here would likely bring in Douglas. And he pops that one to the third baseman, and he'll run. The third baseman not able to get Bell out at first, and the ball actually goes past the first baseman and will bring, I was about to say bring in Logvinov, but I'm not sure if it does. The ball actually got past the fence. I believe they will say Logvinov came in, but Bell will be forced to go back to second. So for the time being, I'm going to mark that down as 2 runs, but it may have only been 1. But Sam Perkins will come to the plate no matter what, as Stephen Bell does get a double there. Actually, not a double. It was a single. It was an error, really. Let's be real. That was an error. I forgot that he hit that one to third base. But the RBI, nonetheless, after the error, gets Stephen Bell to second base. And right now they're discussing on if they should bring Logvinov back to third base. I guess it depends on if he had already hit second base by the time that ball got out. And based on the head shaking from these umpires, I don't think any of them are looking in that direction. And they're about to take a guess. I guarantee you, no matter what the decision made here is, this will be a guess. And they'll put Logvinov at third, and that run will come back. And E.J. Davari, head coach for the Hoppers now, discussing it with these umpires who were not looking at second base. Now, I'm not 100% sure if Logvanov should be at third or home. Either way, I'm not sure. I wasn't looking there either. But just based on some body language from these umpires, I guarantee you they were not looking at second. So they just took a guess, and it looks like they're going to send him back to third. But actually, no, something E.J. Davari said is going to make him talk to the home plate umpire, who does not want to bring Logvanov home for some reason. And he'll bring Davari in, and they'll talk it over, all four of them. And yeah, the Hoppers at least got 1 run scored, possibly 2, but I have a feeling that Logvanov will sit at third here after this discussion. And so Logvanov will head back to third base, and that run will not score. And so these umpires here take a guess on that one, and it goes in favor of the Rhythm. And I doubt anyone's surprised on that decision, and I won't say anything more about that. And Sam Perkins now at the plate. Perkins has struck out and flew out in today's contest. That's an outside pitch for a ball. 1-0 count to Perkins. And that's a strike called 1-1 as that one's in the zone. Perkins hits that one towards the shortstop, who will make the throw at first. And the throw is made, the out is gained, and the Hoppers will get one run instead of 2. And that'll move us into the bottom of the 5th inning, where the score now sits at Hoppers 1, Rhythm 6. We will be right back with more Hoptown Hoppers baseball on Hoptown Hoppers TV. And we are back here, bottom of the 5th inning action, and Reese Holbrook, I believe, is the batter up here. Reese Holbrook has a single in this game as well as a strikeout. And Connor Jackson now on the mound for Hoptown, as a bunt is attempted to be laid down, goes foul. And that'll be an 0-1 count on the missed bunt from Holbrook. And the 0-1 pitch here, Holbrook seems to watch that one go by for a strike, does not try to lay down two bunts, and now finds himself in a hole here, 0-2. As he'll have to fight out of this one. And he hits that one deep towards center field, and Stephen Bell will get under it and make the easy catch in deep center field. Good contact there from Holbrook. Not good placement for the first out. And that'll bring up Sam Slaughter. Slaughter walked in his last at-bat and flew out in his first. And that pitch down the middle for a strike. Connor Jackson now throwing very well in his first few pitches thrown. Connor Jackson's been with the team for about a week now. A couple field trips with us, a couple road trips, as that one's hit past the first baseman Van Hooser into right field. And it will be brought in from Perkins, and a single there from Slaughter. And Levi Perel's now up to the plate. Perel's been on base both times today after a hit by pitch in his first at-bat and a walk in his second. Hasn't had to do much so far. Now has a runner on first with an out. He'll watch that one go down the pipe for a strike. 0-1 the count. And that's hit well towards right field. Sam Perkins gets the ball and brings it into the infield. Doesn't try to throw it to first there, as that runner, big leadoff, is able to trot back. And now the two outs on the board for Jared White, who is the only, let me look, no, one of two batters today to have nothing done behind or at the plate. It's been out in both of his at-bats. And that was a high pitch for a ball. 1-0 the count to White. And that pitch is popped up high towards right field. Both outfielders making the move to it. And Sam Perkins is able to corral it. So 3 outfield hits, 3 outs for the Rhythm. And we move to the top of the 6th inning, where the Hoppers have another chance to tack on to their deficit as they try to come back in this game. We will be right back with more Hoptown Hoppers baseball on Hoptown Hoppers TV in the top of the 6th. Back here, top of the 6th inning action as Luis Vergara is now at the plate. Vergara hasn't been able to get anything done today as he'll watch that one go by for a ball. Looked good from here. Called a ball. That pitch is hit directly to the shortstop, and it does land, but the throw is made at first base, and Vergara is quickly out.
One away brings up the designated hitter, Dom Oliverio.
Dom Oliverio now at the plate. Oliverio was hit by a pitch in his last at-bat. One of the last batters seen from the previous pitcher because of that fastball to the shoulder. I wonder if he's feeling any of that now. And they're going to stop the game here because the football has been thrown around in the bullpen. And they're going to tell him to stop throwing the football and focus on baseball as we continue here. That ball's low in the dirt for a ball 1-0 the count. There's another low pitch. 2-0 the count as some O's are let out from the fans here. But that was a low pitch. 2-0 the count now. And that one is hit slowly. The second baseman will come up and try to make the play, and he will not make the throw as just that chopper just comes off a little too slow. And so Oliverio picks up a single, and I'm going through here. I believe that's only the second hit of the day for the Hoppers. Stephen Bell reached on an error, and then a couple hit by pitches and a walk and a fielder's choice, but only 2 hits. And the other one belongs to this man, Tate Van Hooser. He'll watch that one go by for a strike. 0-1 the count, with 1 out on the board and a runner at first base. And a swing and a miss from Van Hooser, so his third 0-2 count he's faced today. His first one resulted in a single. That was past the third baseman, and his second one was a strikeout. And a swing and a miss. And a strikeout, his second of the day. Tate Van Hooser will sit down for the second out here in the top of the 6th inning and bring up Carter Hood. Hood himself struck out in his first at-bat and was thrown out in his second. So 2 outs on the board and a runner at first base. And Carter Hood at the plate. He'll watch that one go by. It's called a strike. It looked like it was on the outside. Hard to tell from here. On the outside pitches, the inside pitches are a little easier to see. And he'll foul that one directly behind him. 0-2 the count as back-to-back batters now facing the 0-2. Van Hooser struck out. Carter Hood trying not to do the same here. And be the final out here in the top of the 6th. And he won't, as that's fouled off and out of the catcher's glove. The count will remain the same at 0-2. And Carter Hood will continue to fight at the plate. And Carter Hood here facing the 0-2 count with runner at first base. That's Dom Oliverio with 2 outs on the board, and he will be hit by the pitch. So the second batter hit from this pitcher, Jack Thompson, the sidearm pitcher. And that'll bring up Reed Douglas, who was also hit by this pitcher in his last at-bat. So now runners at second and first. Reed Douglas at the plate. And 2 outs on the board. There's an outside pitch for a ball, and it'll get oohed and awed, but it was on the outside. And a 1-0 count now to Douglas. That pitch definitely on the outside, and no oohs there. 2-0 the count. And there's a good pitch down the middle for a strike. Moved up, a pretty pitch there from Thompson. 2-1 count now for Douglas. And then same exact spot there for the second strike. And the twos are wild here. 2 balls, 2 strikes, and 2 outs for Douglas as he fights to keep the inning alive with runners at second and first and 2 outs on the board. And he swings and misses and will strike out on the check swing as it goes a little too far. And Douglas will sit down with a strikeout and end the top of the 6th inning, stranding 2 runners, 1 on second, 1 on first. And we will move, to the bottom of the 6th inning, where the Rhythm will get another chance to score. Until then, we will be right back with more Hoptown Hoppers baseball on Hoptown Hoppers TV. And here we are back in the bottom of the 6th. And Brett Waringer will be up to bat. Waringer struck out in his first at bat and fought in his second and eventually walked. That was against McGuire, now facing Thompson. And he'll immediately watch one go by for a strike. Thompson throwing a lot of balls in the zone. All 3 of the outs in the last inning were in the outfield. That pitch is a little low, and the count is now 1-1 to Waringer. And a high pitch there as Waringer thinks about it. Bat kind of leaves the shoulder a little bit, but doesn't go anywhere. And a 2-1 count now. And that one down the middle for a strike. So evened up at 2 apiece now for Thompson and Waringer. And Waringer, I believe, was also the leadoff batter in that last inning, or maybe 2 innings ago, I'm not sure. But second time he's been up with no outs on the board. I know that for a fact. And he will let the bat go a little bit, but it doesn't go far enough, and that'll be a ball. So Waringer sees another full count here at 3-2. And that's a foul in the dirt straight down, and the count will remain the same at 3-2. And that's hit down the middle. The shortstop Keebler comes up with it, makes the throw, and a great grab from Van Hooser. A fantastic grab to get the out there as the throw was a little bit to the right of first base. And Van Hooser has to stretch for it, and that'll pick up the first out here. So Waringer actually able to get it into play that time, and still thrown out at first. And we are back at the top of the lineup. Drew Robertson, who has 2 singles already today, is up to bat with 1 out on the board and no runners on base. And he'll watch that one go by for an inside ball. 1-0 count right away. That pitch is just out for a ball, so 2-0 count now to Robertson, who, being 100% honest with you, wouldn't be a bad batter to walk, as he seems to have good hitting acumen. And another inside pitch there to him, so a 3-0 count now, as Connor Jackson's first time really fallen behind an account since he took over. And another one there. So Robertson will walk. That's his second of the day. He's landed on base in all of his at-bats today. He's at first. And that'll bring up Trey Miller, who also has been on base on all of his at-bats, except he only has 1 hit. He was walked and then hit by a pitch. They're going to say he did not go on that first high pitch for a ball. 1-0 the count. And there's another high pitch for a ball, as Jackson seeming to lose the zone just a little bit, but only his second batter now, where he's been a little bit behind in the count. Pitched well through that first inning and first batter here. Just needs to get it down. Not that far down, though, as that's a low and outside pitch for a 3-0 count once again. And I assume the batter leaves the bat on the shoulder here. And the pitch, and it doesn't matter, as that's another high pitch for another walk. Back-to-back walks will bring a runner to scoring position and will bring Coach Mike Albin out of the dugout to, I'm assuming, talk with Jackson and not take him out of the game, as other than those 2 batters has been pitching well and hasn't been in too long. And I don't think he might be looking at the bullpen, but I don't think so. I could be wrong. But it looks like this will just be a chat with Connor Jackson. And so runners on second and first, and that's Drew Robertson and Trey Miller, the 2 consistent batters in this lineup for the Rhythm. Next up will be Jackson Cawthorn, who had a sacrifice fly in his last at-bat, but hasn't been on base himself today. And then Henry Jackson's after him on deck. Jackson is another batter, one of the few that has been out in all 3 of his at-bats and hasn't been able to get anything done.
Catcher Jackson Cawthorn.
And so Connor Jackson remains on the mound, and Jackson Cawthorn is in the box with 1 out on the board and runners at second and first. And a high outside pitch, same spot as that last one that walked Miller. And that is a foul ball into the netting. We've seen a lot of that tonight to even the count up at 1 apiece. And the throw is made to second base to check up on the runner. That's Robertson at second. He's safe at second. The count remains 1 apiece with 1 out on and 2 runners on base. That's an inside pitch for a ball. Now a 2-1 count. Cawthron, and would not surprise me if this batter were to be walked, if Jackson came out after that talk. Not exactly sure who would be the next pitcher out of the bullpen. And that is a ball hit to the shortstop Keebler, who makes an excellent grab but is not able to make the throw to first, but will leave the runner at third base. So good play nonetheless. And 1 out on the board, loaded bases here after that diving grab from John Keebler. And so this is Henry Jackson, who has not gotten anything done today at the plate, up to, or in the box now. He'll see that one go by for a ball. Loaded bases with only 1 out, a force at every base for Hoptown, but not a good position by any means. And that pitch, a little better, but still outside for another ball. 2-0 the count now. And that is hit to the third baseman. No, Carter Hood bobbles it. So an error from Carter Hood will allow the run to score, and no outs are gained. And the missed grab there from Hood will keep the game in the same position with loaded bases and 1 out. And Coach Mike Albin will come to the mound. And Connor Jackson seeming to shrug and wonder why he's coming out after he just got 2 ground balls, and this inning should probably be over. But instead he'll be replaced by Jacob Dilday. And so Dilday taking over on the mound. And we will let him warm up and return in the bottom of the 6th here from Hendersonville, and be right back with Hoptown Hoppers TV and more Hoptown Hoppers baseball. And we return here, bottom of the 6th inning, and Reese Holbrook up to the plate. Holbrook has a single today and a strikeout, as well as popping out in his third at-bat. Jacob Dilday now on the mound for Hoptown, and Holbrook will immediately foul one off for an 0-1 count. That pitch is just outside. Looked good from here for a ball, 1-1 the count. And that pitch is rifled past the first baseman, and nothing you can do about that one, as it will come in and stop the second runner from advancing, but the first will do so. And so an RBI there from Holbrook and a single, and the bases remain loaded. And this is Sam Slaughter, the designated hitter. Slaughter had a single in his last at-bat. Before that, he walked. And before that, he flew out. One out on the board, loaded bases, and 2 runs have already scored here for the Rhythm. First pitch hit to the third baseman, Hood, who will make the play at home for the forced out, and no run scores. So Carter Hood there redeeming himself for the error from earlier, and the second out is grabbed. And first base is now empty, but 2 runners in scoring position as Levi Perel is up to bat. Perel here has landed on base twice today with a hit by pitch and walk, and we'll see that one go by for a ball right out of the gate. 1-0 count for Perel, 2 outs on the board and runners on third and second base. And that pitch is good for a strike, evened up at 1 apiece now. And excuse me, no, runners are loaded, bases are loaded after that. Don't know why I thought there wouldn't be. And that pitch is good for a strike. 1-2 the count now. Now on his last strike, Perel trying to keep the inning alive. Dilday trying to get out of it and move to the 7th. And that pitch is just low to even things up at 2 apiece. 2 balls, 2 strikes, 2 outs. The 2s are wild and loaded bases. That pitch is swung on and missed. And because the runner's on first, that'll just be the strikeout. And that'll end things. And we will head to the top of the 7th after Dilday strikes out Perel. And so the Rhythm do score 2 runs there in the bottom of the 6th. And that leaves the current score standing at Hoptown Hoppers 1, Rhythm 8. And I'll take the moment as we're about to move into the 7th inning to go through the Hoptown Hopper season sponsors. Those sponsors being Jones Brothers, White's Auto Mall, Chick-fil-A, Huggart Beard and Giles, Planters Bank, Oak Grove Racing and Gaming, the City of Hopkinsville, Penny Ryle Electric, HWEA, Charlie Anderson State Farm, WHVO, Bikes and More, All Clean Services, Higgins Insurance, and Super Lawn and Garden. Those are your Hoptown Hoppers season sponsors. Thank you so much to those season sponsors for doing all that they do for this team. And we will be right back in just a moment for the top of the 7th inning. And a quick break it was now back in the top of the 7th, and John Keebler's up to bat. Keebler walked in his last at bat. And a pitch right down the middle to get things started here in the 7th from Thompson. 0-1 count now to Keebler. That pitch is fouled off into the netting for an 0-2 count. So Keebler finds himself behind early and will have to fight here. And a foul there goes off the bat into the chest of the catcher and keeps the count the same. And that pitch is hit directly to the first baseman, who makes the grab. And Keebler will sit after getting some contact, but not quite enough. And that'll bring up Logvinov, who reached on fielder's choice in his last at bat and eventually made it all the way home before being sent back to third. And he'll face this pitcher once again with 1 out on the board, and he watches a strike go by him there for an 0-1 count. 1 out on the board and no runners on base. There's an inside pitch to Logvinov to even things up at 1 apiece. 1-1 the count with 1 out on the board. There's a low pitch in the dirt for a ball. Logvinov is ahead now, 2-1. That's an inside pitch, 2 now seen from Logvinov. And a 3-1 count as he threatens to walk and be a base runner here in the 7th inning. And that's a strike called on the outside edge of the strike zone to fill up the count at 3-2. An inside pitch, I think actually catches Logvinov's foot. Yes, it definitely did. And so Logvinov hit by a pitch. That's the 3rd batter hit by this pitcher, as he seems to have little to no control. And he'll head to first base and doesn't walk, but will end up at first anyway, as that catches him on the foot as he tried to jump to get out of the way of it.
Now batting center fielder Stephen Bell.
So he'll walk and hop and jog and do whatever it takes to continue playing here. Make his way to first base. I'm sure that one didn't feel good. Not a ton of padding on the back side of your foot. Don't expect to get hit there. And so Logvinov will station himself at first base. And Stephen Bell, the leadoff hitter for the Hoppers, is now back up to the plate. And the coach for the Rhythm now coming to talk with Thompson. Probably going to ask him why he keeps hitting batters and how long it's going to take until someone takes offense to getting hit. And doesn't look like they are going to be making a call to the bullpen by any means, but a quick chat with the pitcher and he'll head back to the dugout, and Stephen Bell will head back to the plate. And so 1 out on the board and 1 runner on base. That's first base, Artem Logvinov, and now Stephen Bell at the plate, the lefty. We'll see that one go outside for a ball. 1-0 the count. Logvinov goes, and that ball's thrown into the outfield. Logvinov will stay at second. Probably could have gone to third if he had have gotten up a little quicker, but he also a little hobbled from getting hit in the foot. And that pitch was called a strike. Logvinov steals second. So a 1-1 count now, and 1 out on the board. Logvinov is at second base. One count to Bell here as the at-bat continues. And a high pitch there for a 2-1 count. That pitch is lined towards third base. The third baseman does an excellent job of coming up with it. The tag is made. The ball thrown a little bit past first, but the first baseman comes up and tags Stephen Bell running. And so the out is gained. Artem Logvinov makes his way to third base for the second time today. And Sam Perkins, an on-base machine, now at the plate. He's actually not been on base today, though, as he struck out and has been out twice since then. Both of those have been pop-ups to center, or I believe center field. I know one of them did. That's a low pitch framed by the catcher and brought up for a strike. It was low, but again, a good framing job from the catcher there. And an 0-1 count. That one is a little higher and probably good, so an 0-2 count now to Perkins. And that's fouled off directly behind home plate into the netting to keep the count the same at 0-2. And with 2 outs and a runner on third, the Hoppers need Perkins to get on base here with a hit, a walk, so be it. But continuing the inning here, top priority. And an outside pitch there to Perkins. The Rhythm actually will have an opportunity in the bottom of this inning to walk it off, as a 10-run lead after 7 would be the mercy rule. They're currently up by 7. And Perkins will swing and miss and strike out there, his second of the day. And that will end the inning for Hoptown and bring us to the bottom of the 7th, where, like I said, the Rhythm will have a chance to walk things off. If they don't get 3 runs, the game will continue to 9 innings. If they do, that will be the end of the game. Right now, the score, though, is Hoppers 1, Rhythm 8. We will be right back with more Hoptown Hoppers baseball on Hoptown Hoppers TV. And we are back, bottom of the 7th inning action here in Hendersonville, Tennessee, and Jared White is at the plate. White, now the lone batter to not reach base today for the Rhythm, facing off against Dilday, who remains on the mound for Hoptown. He'll immediately hit that one towards the second baseman, Logvinov, who makes the throw in, and a quick out on the first pitch seen from White.
One away brings up Brett Waringer.
And now Brett Waringer, who was thrown out in his last at-bat is now back up to the plate. Warringer struck out in his first at-bat and walked in his second. And with one out here and no runners on, similar situation to what he's seen in the last two. And he finds a gap there. Actually, John Keebler does a fantastic job of getting the ball and making the throw, but not in time as Warringer will pick up the single, his first hit of the day. So he's done just about everything you can do. And now Drew Robertson, the center fielder who has landed on base in every single at-bat, is up to the plate. He had a single in his first, a walk in the second, a single in his third, and a walk in his fourth. Following a pattern, you'd expect a single here, right? With one out on the board and a runner on, Drew Robertson is at the plate. That's an inside pitch for a ball. 1-0 count to Robertson. And another inside pitch, that one close to the foot of Robertson for a 2-0 count. And that's hit to the shortstop Keebler. They're going to try to turn two here, and they're not able to do it as Robertson shows some speed and makes it to first, but Warringer is out at second, and that will be fielder's choice for Drew Robertson, who has pretty much reached in just about every way you can. And 2 outs now for Trey Miller, who another batter who has been on base in every single at-bat, walked twice, but hit by a pitch once and has a single today as well. And that pitch outside for a ball. 1-0 count to Miller with 2 outs on the board and a runner at first base. Dilde's going to check up on Robertson at first. He's no good as he's safe. That pitch is low and outside for a ball as Miller thinks about it but doesn't go. So a 2-0 count now to Miller. And that's hit well to Keebler, who grabs the ball out of the air, and that's 3 outs. So 3 of the 5, or I guess 3 of the 4 there. Outs, and we move to the top of the 8th inning. No mercy rule gained as the score remains Hoppers 1, Rhythm 8. We will be right back with more Hoptown Hoppers baseball in the 8th inning on Hoptown Hoppers TV. And we are back here, top of the 8th inning action. Luis Vergara now up to the plate for the Hoppers. That's a high fastball thrown for a ball. I didn't catch maybe Juan Anderson, maybe the name of this pitcher. I know his first name's Juan, but I think Anderson was the last name. A lefty pitcher. And that'll be a swing and a miss from Vergara. So a 1-1 count now. That pitch outside for a ball, 2-1 the count. That's a high pitch and outside for a ball, 3-1 now the count. That pitch is outside, and Vergara will walk as Anderson's first batter. He sees heads to first, and Luis gets on base for the first time today. That'll bring up Dom Oliverio, who has one of the 2 hits for the Hoppers today with a single. It was also hit by a pitch, so he's been on base twice today. And now no outs on the board. A runner at first has a chance to get some sort of offense going for Hoptown. If they don't score any runs here or don't, get to that point where they're competing in this game, they'll have one more shot in the top of the 9th inning, or else it's over. So a ball thrown there to Oliverio, 1-0 the count. And that's an outside pitch for a ball, 2-0 the count. That's a low pitch in the dirt for a ball, 3-0 now the count as Anderson struggling to find the zone, threatening to walk back-to-back batters here. And I assume Oliverio will leave this bat on the shoulder. And that's a good pitch. Little on the high side, but probably in there. So a 3-1 count now. That's an outside low pitch, and Oliverio, like Vergara, will walk. And so back-to-back walks. Gets a runner in scoring position and brings up Tate Van Hooser, who is the other batter with a hit in this game. Also has a single. Runners on second and first. Outside pitch there for a ball. 1-0 the count. And another outside pitch there for a 2-0 count as the coach for the Rhythm will immediately walk out and head over to the mound as Anderson struggling to find the zone, really anywhere near it right now. Back-to-back walks and then 2 balls thrown here. And it does look like they have a pitcher warming up, but he's just stretching, he's not throwing. And so Anderson is going to stay in the game. Hasn't been out there too long. I would be surprised if they took him out. And Van Hooser will continue with his at-bat. 2-0 count with no outs on the board and 2 runners on at second and first. That's Vergara at second and Oliverio at first. And an outside pitch there for a 3-0 count, and Similar situation to what Oliverio saw himself in. Van Hooser likely will leave the bat on the shoulder here and make the pitcher work for it. And he does not. It looked like a strike from here, I'll be honest with you. But after seeing so many balls go by, not surprising to miss that pitch. And so loaded bases now for the Hoppers as Van Hooser walks to first. Back-to-back walks, loads the bases, no outs on the board, and Carter Hood at the plate. That's a low pitch in the dirt. And so another one starting off slowly here for Anderson, and they'll have to speed this pitcher up in the bullpen. Anderson's seriously struggling right now. And that's an outside pitch for the second ball, 2-0 the count. And that pitch is just outside again for a ball. Anderson needing to bring these pitches in. Most of these being outside. 3-0 count here. This walk would score a run. That pitch is right down the middle for a strike. And you needed one eventually if you're Anderson. And so a 3-1 count now to Hood with no outs on the board and loaded bases. And that pitch fouled. And 3-2 the count now. No outs on the board, loaded bases. Carter Hood fighting here to not be the first out. That's a low pitch. No, it's going to be called a strike and a strikeout. And a first out there is strikeout to Hood. And Hood will sit down and bring up a Reed Douglas, the catcher.
Catcher, Reed Douglas.
And Douglas here has 2 strikeouts and a hit by pitch, loaded bases, and 1 out on the board for Douglas. And that's a high and outside pitch for a ball to get Reed Douglas's at-bat started. And that pitch right down the middle for a strike. 1-1 the count. That pitch outside for a ball. 2-1 now the count to Douglas. Again, 1 out on the board and loaded bases. A walk here would score a run. A hit would possibly score 2. And that's a high pitch for a 3-1 count.
Don't give up. Let's go.
The pitch here is low and outside. Reed Douglas will walk and bring in Luis Vergara for the Hoppers' second run of the day. It's been a while since their first, and they have their second. That only gets them 1 step closer to getting back in this ball game, but they're still a ways out. And John Keebler now up to the plate. Keebler with a walk in this game already, but other than that has been thrown out twice, I believe. And that first pitch is good for a strike. 0-1 count. That pitch is good as well. So Anderson seeming to find some zone here, finally. That pitch outside for the ball, a 1-2 the count to Keebler. And Keebler will hit that one to the second baseman, and he'll make the throw to first and get him out there. But Tate Vanhooser actually does a good job to get in the way and not allow a double play to be made. And that will score a run. But the second out is gained for the Rhythm.
Second baseman Artem
And
Logvinov.
Logvinov is now up to the plate. Logvinov was hit by a pitch in his last at-bat. That was a different pitcher. Runners on third and second here. That's an outside pitch there for a ball. That's a low pitch in the dirt for the second ball. 2-0 count here. 2 runners on base and 2 outs on the board. Another outside pitch there for a ball. So 3-0 the count to Logvinov as he threatens to load the bases once again. And that's an inside pitch, so Logvinov will walk it out and load the bases up. Stephen Bell, the leadoff batter for Hoptown, now back up to the plate. The only time Bell has reached base today was on an error. And other than that, he has struck out once and thrown out one, or tagged out actually at first in his last at bat. And they will bring a new pitcher in for Juan Anderson, who has been not too great today. Anderson walking, let me count it out, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5 batters. So in only 6 batters seen, let me make sure I got this right, 7 batters seen, 5 of them have walked. And so we'll let this new pitcher get some warm-up pitches in and be right back with more top of the 8th action. Loaded bases, 2 outs on the board for Hoptown, who have already scored 2 runs here in the top of the 8th. And we're back here, top of the 8th inning. Stephen Bell at the plate. Loaded bases, but there are 2 outs on the board and a new pitcher here, Marshall Ripper. He immediately throws one that goes by the catcher, and Tate Van Hooser will score from third. And that's 3 runs now scored here from Hoptown, and a ball thrown right out of the gate from Ripper. 1-0 count to Bell and 2 runners in scoring position. That's Douglas and Logvinov. And a high pitch there for a ball now. 2-0 the count. And Stephen Bell will lace that one foul down the first baseline. 2-1 now the count to Bell, as that one is unable to skip over the base, and the at-bat will continue. That one, if it were to have stayed fair, would have likely scored 2. Instead, Bell continues his at-bat. And that's an inside pitch called a strike. 2-2 the count now for Bell, and the 2s are wild. 2 balls, 2 strikes, 2 outs, and 2 runners on base, both of which are in scoring position. And that's a super inside pitch for a ball to fill up the count. 3-2 now. And Bell will hit that one to the first baseman, who's able to make the play to the pitcher, who steps on first and who ends the top of the 8th inning, but not before the Hoppers are able to pick up 3 runs, most of which coming via walk and wild pitch. I actually don't think there was a hit in that 3 runs, but they'll take it, as the score is now Hoppers 4, Rhythm 8. We will move to the bottom of the 8th inning, where the Rhythm will try to get a few more insurance runs before the Hoppers get one more shot at it in the top of the 9th. We'll see you then with more Hoptown Hoppers baseball on Hoptown Hoppers TV. Bottom of the 8th inning here, and Jackson Cawthron is up to bat for the Rhythm. Cawthron had a single in his last at-bat, a sacrifice fly in the at-bat before that. He'll watch that one go by for a strike. Jacob Dilday remains on the mound for the Hoppers. That pitch is high for a ball, now evening it up at 1 apiece. 1-1 the count. That pitch, you know what, inside I'd say is my best guess on it. Looked all right, looked like it was going to go way high and actually dip back in. 2-1 the count. That pitch is high for a 3-1 count as Cawthron threatens to walk here to get the bottom of the 8th started for a full count. That pitch inside and low, so Cawthron will walk. And only, or I was about to say only one out, but there's no outs. One batter on, and that's Cawthron. And Henry Jackson now at the plate. Jackson reached on an error in his last at-bat. That pitch outside for the ball. 4 balls thrown now, or I guess maybe 5 now straight to Jackson now. Actually, I was about to say to Jackson, but we just saw a Jackson. Now we see a Henry Jackson. And Jackson Cawthron is checked up on at first base. He's safe. That pitch is high, but it's fouled off into the netting behind home plate for a 1-1 count. 1-1 count now with no outs on the board and a runner on first base. That pitch low for another ball. 2-1 now the count to Henry Jackson, the first baseman, who does not have a hit today. One of only a few batters in this lineup without a hit. That pitch swung on and missed, hitting the low end of the zone anyways. 2-2 now the count. That pitch is hit to the first baseman, but it's fouled. Just barely going foul. Would have been an out at first. But instead, the at-bat continues, and the count remains the same at 2 apiece for Henry Jackson. That is popped up to right field. And Perkins will come up with it and bring it back in. And that is the first out here in the bottom of the 8th inning. And we will bring up
One away brings Reese Holbrook to the plate.
Reese Holbrook, who started his day off with a strikeout, but has since then had 2 singles. And the runner remains at first base. And 1 out on the board. That is fouled off just over the netting, over the top of the Rhythm dugout for an 0-1 count here. That pitch high and outside for a ball. 1-1 the count now to Holbrook. That pitch inside for a ball. 2-1 the count. That pitch hit well towards left field, and Luis Vergara going to make the grab, and an impressive one there back at the wall. And that'll be the second out for the Rhythm as Holbrook flies out.
Designated hitter.
The runner
Sam
remains at first base, and Sam Slaughter, the designated hitter, is now up at the plate. Slaughter reached on fielder's choice in his last at-bat, had a single before that. That's a strike down the middle. 0-1 count. That pitch is good, but it actually comes out of the glove of the catcher. 0-2 count now. That pitch is outside. Close one. 1-2 the count. 2 outs on the board and a runner at first. This is Sam Slaughter at the plate. That pitch hit to Dilday, and he'll slowly bring it to Van Hooser and get out of the inning without giving up a run. The score going into the top of the ninth, which will be the Hoppers' last chance at winning this ball game, or I guess last chance at tying and or getting ahead, will be Hoppers 4, Rhythm 8. Hoppers need at least 4 runs, 5 to go ahead and 4 to tie, 4 to continue the game. And we will be back when that is ready to resume. This has been Hoptown Hoppers TV, and more Hoptown Hoppers baseball to come in just a moment. And up to bat first here in the top of the ninth inning is Sam Perkins. Perkins today has not got on base yet, and that's not something we normally see from him. He's an excellent on-base percentage player, a great batting average as well. So today, a little bit of an off day for him here, but he'll be starting things off in the ninth for the Hoppers. He watches that one go straight down the middle for a strike to get things started. And a swing and a miss on the off-speed pitch there will make it an 0-2 count. Perkins has already struck out twice. Again, something we're not used to seeing from him. Those other 2 outs coming from pop-outs, or fly-outs, should I say. And another swing and a miss from Sam. And it's all right. He's not too happy about it. He lets some choice words go as he leaves the plate. But that'll bring up Luis Vergara. And Luis has struck out once. He walked in his last at-bat. But before that had gotten nothing done. Here he is with 1 out on the board and no runners on. That's a slow pitch. It's a little low. They're going to call it a strike. 0-1 count, and that one is swung on and missed from Vergara. And Vergara laces that one down the first base line, but it's just foul. And that'll leave the count where it is at 0-2. Luis, in these situations, been known to have long at-bats to keep innings alive. Here he is at 0-2 count. Will have to be perfect from here on out if he wants to not only stay alive himself, but keep from being that second out. That pitch is called strike, and I think Luis knew it. A pretty pitch there from the pitcher. And that's the second out, second strikeout. And it'll bring up Tom Oliverio as the Hoppers now on their final out in this one. And final out here for the Hoppers is Dom Oliverio's at the plate with no runners on. He has a single, and he walked in his last at-bat. Sees that one. No, that is a high pitch called a strike. And that is a rough one, as that one was nowhere near the strike zone, way over the top. And it gets called a strike. 0-1 the count to Oliverio. That pitch low in the dirt. 1-1 the count. And Oliverio pops that one foul. The first baseman tries to make the play on it, unable to do so. And that will make the count 1-2. So now Oliverio and the Hoppers on their final strike of the game here. One, two, the count, 2 outs on the board. Oliverio at the plate here. And the pitch is hit well, but caught by the second baseman, and that'll do it. And all 20 of the full count fans are on their feet, and they're excited. And that is it. The final score in this one is Hoppers 4, Rhythm 8. And that'll do it. The Hoppers pick up 3 in the top of the 8th, but are unable to pick up any here in the 9th. And the final score 4-8. The Hoppers will return to action tomorrow at home. And they will be going up against, let me pull up my schedule real quick. They'll be going up against the Fulton Railroaders at home tomorrow. That game starts at 6 o'clock, and the pregame show will start at 5:45. Until then, this has been Ethan Alexander with Hoptown Hoppers TV. The final score, Hoppers 4, Rhythm 8. Good night from Hendersonville, Tennessee, and go Hoppers.